Hey folks, this is one of our pilot episodes for This Movie Exists. We're dropping the first 3 episodes all at once, featuring very different movies and a little bit different approach for each one to get a sense where the audience is and how people feel. So whether you like this one or think, okay, maybe not my thing, please check out the other 2 shows linked in the description at the end of each video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and thank you as always for your views and support. Did you hear about the woke Snow White? No, not the one still coming out where right-wing morons from YouTube, but I repeat myself, noticed that gossip trades didn't like an actress, so they tried to jump on a bandwagon for media legitimacy and invented a whole imaginary movie to be mad about because stupid people don't know how pre-production works and got so worked up that Ben Shapiro's fake movie company is apparently going to burn a bunch of money making Snow White for Republicans, and meanwhile, when Disney finally showed a teaser shot for the actual movie, it just looked like a normal, boring-ass live-action Disney remake, so they all look even more insane than usual, which is saying something. No, I mean the actual woke Snow White, where they reverse the genders of the villain, flip the plot around so Snow White has to save the prince, and even replace the dwarves with lady dwarves who've got environmental powers.
I must find my prince.
Now Snow White is alone with no place to hide.
You'll never see your prince again!
Until the 7 Dwarfelles came to her side.
Come on, girls! Oh, that really burns me up.
Yeah, no, this is a real thing.
I beg your pardon.
And you maybe just haven't heard about it because there's not nearly as much money to be actually made online talking about the actual history of weird things that really happened for historic interest as there is pretending to be mad about fake things that might happen for political brownie points, which somewhat calls into question my own business model, come to think of it, but at least I can sleep at night. In theory.
Good morning!
So anyway, this animated curiosity is officially called Happily Ever After, sometimes subtitled Happily Ever After, Snow White Continued, or Happily Ever After, Snow White's Greatest Adventure, and it is not a sequel to the 1930s Walt Disney version of Snow White, but it really, really, really wants you to think it is in a just shy of legally actionable way. Think of it as the Snow White you order from Wish upon a star, except this was several decades before Wish.com and... Yeah, okay, here's how this happened. The clever rascals behind this were Filmation, a children's television and animation company that operated pretty successfully in the 70s and 80s, cranking out a ton of what we'd now call content. Some of it good, some of it less, and most of it interesting. Today, probably best remembered for their Gen X mega hit He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and She-Ra, they were shrewd pioneers in exactly 2 fields, working extra hard at keeping their production operations domestic and employing US animation studios when most other companies were starting to largely outsource to East Asia, and being early adopters of licensed intellectual property as a business model.
To explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations.
These are the most beautiful women in the galaxy, but where are the men?
Well, they occupy another compound.
That makes sense.
Our adventures are the best by far.
Here on Gilligan's Star Planet.
But when it quickly became apparent that cartoons based on toys, video games, and recent movies were also trends that the overseas studios were going to overwhelm them on, Filmation's bosses put their eye on an ambitious pivot to a new gambit, theatrical animation.
What?
Which from the 70s all the way up through the 80s was not as stupid a prospect as you'd think. See, Disney, the movie studio part of it, pretty much hit a wall and started flailing around not knowing what to do with itself after Walt died in the 60s, and while the business side at the parks and the merchandise kept things rolling pretty decently and even turned out some pretty respectable and even interesting live action work in that era. So if you weren't like a shareholder or involved in the day-to-day, it really didn't register with normal people or audiences that there was ever much issue with the company at all in that period.
See you at Disneyland. Bring money.
That's some historical precedent there for people who've huffed too much Twitter juice and think it's all over for Mickey because a couple of their movies didn't cross $1 billion last year. Yeah, no, like it or not, Mickey is basically fucking invincible, for better or worse. But for a decade or so, they weren't dominating theatrical animation and family films, so for a while, you could actually sneak a ton of relatively cheap cartoons and kid stuff into theaters because something had to fill up that vacuum.
GoBots, Battle of the Rock Lords, Solitaire and Nugget. Seek the mighty GoBots and enlist their help.
Silver
those rocks.
And Filmation's big idea was, well, when vintage Disney was hot, Walt's big gimmick was to make the definitive animated version of a classic public domain story, so you wouldn't have to pay for any licensing up front, but you'd own all the licensable aesthetics of the most iconic looks and components of the popular version. Case in point, Snow White. Anyone can do Snow White, but you can own all those dwarves and that specific design of the evil queen and such. And since Disney and others had already scooped a ton of existing classics, let's make our brand original sequels to public domain classics.
Passion of the Christ 2. Crucify this. This July, let he who is without sin kick the first ass.
And Filmation's ambitions were ambitious. In 1985, the studio announced development of 13 feature film animated projects as part of this initiative. Bambi, Prince of the Forest, Son of Sleeping Beauty, The New Adventures of Pinocchio, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfelles, The Challenge of Cinderella, The Continuing Adventures of the Jungle Book, 20 Million Leagues Across the Universe, and Alice Returns to Wonderland, all original sequels to public domain books and fairy tales that have been made into classic Disney movies.
Hunchback 6, Air Dog Quasi, Mulan 8, The Prozoids Fight Back, Jungle Book 3.0 Jungle Blog,
and also several that were just sequelizing other stuff like Time Machine 2, The Man Who Saved the Future, Frankenstein Lives Again, The Further Adventures of Gulliver, L. Frank Baum's The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, and The New Tales of the Arabian Nights. So, big crazy plan, shooting for the moon, did not work out. Did not work out even a little bit. Huge, huge failure. Only 2 movies actually made it into production, The Snow White and the Pinocchio as Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night and Happily Ever After here.
It's no use. I just can't get it right.
Disney actually sued them over the Pinocchio one and lost, but it didn't matter when that movie opened and bombed in 1987. Happily Ever After turned into a backburner production while the studio tried to keep the lights on. It was completed in 1988, but it didn't get released until 1993 as an attempt to piggyback on the anniversary re-release of the original Disney Snow White. By that point, Filmation had not kept the lights on. Its assets had been bought up by investors from the L'Oreal Cosmetics Company and shuttered almost 5 years earlier.
Shampoo!
What remained of the movie made little impression in theaters despite a mild marketing push with a toy line and fast food tie-ins, and it largely passed without notice en route to home video. Sad, sad story.
Oh, I made myself sad.
But how's the movie? It's not very good. Look, you won't find me faulting Filmation's ambition or their history and contributions to the medium, but it was also no secret that, like it or not, they were running on fumes by the mid-80s, and it really showed here, especially when it took almost a decade to release. I'll probably cover the Pinocchio, which was a better movie another time, but where that one takes at least some interesting chances, this is them playing it very much on the safe side with what is, well, notable in history, not exactly Disney's most narratively interesting movie, in a serial numbers filed off sequel, basically just doing as close to a remake of the 30s version as they could without getting sued again and changing things up to make it a sequel in ways that should be interesting, but really aren't.
When water flows as though it's bled, and sky does change from blue to red, it's a sign to all. The Queen is dead. I scared myself.
Story-wise, the idea is that an indeterminate amount of time, but I guess not that long, since the ending of Snow White, the minions of the Wicked Queen, which I guess she had this whole time, have been hanging around the castle doing fuck all in the wake of her death, but mostly just this bat and this owl voiced by Frank Welker and Ed Asner respectively, plus the magic mirror now voiced by Dom DeLuise because it's a low-budget animated movie from the 80s, so you better fucking believe Ed Asner and Dom DeLuise are gonna be here.
Now this is what I call a party. No more evil queen. That old hag won't be pushing us around no more, Batso.
Gee, that's not a very nice thing to call her.
You some kind of bird brain or something? Oh, keep it down, you noisy creep. You're ruining my beauty sleep.
And so is Malcolm McDowell as Lord Malice. This is our villain, the Queen's brother, who just showed up to visit, finds out she's dead, and decides to go fuck up the people who did that.
Looking glass upon the wall, at my command you will show me all. For jealous sister met her plight, trying to harm the fair Snow White.
But, since she had the same resources, basic power set of enchantments and physical transformation, plus time to plan and knew the area and still failed, what chance is he gonna have to take them out right off the...
From this day forward, I shall rule this castle and all that is in it. I will control the laws of nature and bend them to my will. Vengeance!
Okay, well, fuck.
Snow White and her handsome prince shall pay for what has happened to my sister.
Uh-huh.
Snow White! Don't turn back! Who are you? What do you want?
Yeah, okay, I guess just ask the mirror where they are, turn into a giant monster instead of an old woman, fly there, and instead of tricking your enemies into eating fruit, just beat the fucking shit out of them is a much better approach to this whole situation. Points to the boy team on this, I guess. Never send a lady to do it. Let's just move on. So the prince is either dead, kidnapped, or all just messed up, and Snow White goes through a Dollar General version of the spooky forest bit from the Disney one, so she can end up back at the Seven Dwarves cottage, now inhabited by new tenants.
My, your cottage sure has grown. Oh my. Why, you're not the Seven Dwarfs.
I should say not.
They opened up a new mine way over in the next kingdom. Oh, but then who are you? We're their cousins, the Seven Dwarfelles.
These are our new hoped-for breakout characters, the Dwarfelles, an all-female crew defined not by physical comedy personality traits like their male cousins from the Disney movie, but by their magical powers over the elements of nature, voiced by an eclectic lineup of, it's that voice talent in the form of Carol Channing, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Sally Kellerman, and Linda Gary and Tracy Ullman, each doing two voices. Muddy has earth powers, Blossom does plants, Sunburn does fire and light, Marina controls water, Moonbeam controls the night, and also darkness, I think. Critterina talks to animals, and Thunderella controls technically all the weather.
Come on. Come on.
But specifically Thunder and Lightning, which, because those would be useful powers and make the movie really short, she's the young insecure one who hasn't mastered her skills yet and won't until the end, so there can be dramatic tension.
You are all so brave. How can I still belong? What makes you, you? And who am I? What can I do without blue skies?
For now, they're all just kind of pains in the ass who do physical comedy and get on each other's nerves, though.
I'm in charge of the earth itself, while Sunburn is merely in charge of the sunlight.
Merely?
Oh no. Here we go again. Moonbeam's in charge of the night. She's not herself during the day.
But they agree to team up and help Snow White on her Save the Prince quest because they were going in that direction anyway to meet their boss Mother Nature about Thunderella's whole thing.
Mother Nature's called her up for review. That's never happened before. Come with us to see Mother Nature. She'll help find the prince.
Mother Nature? I hope she can.
Oh, and Mother Nature is Phyllis Diller doing a lounge act shtick.
Mix it at the right time, then do it again.
Seriously, like 70 to 80% of this movie is just the exact level of Hollywood Squares mainstays from the 70s references you expect from the Brian and Stewie road trip episodes of Family Guy. Like, that's Jonathan Harris from Lost in Space as the talking sunflower. Apparently, Mother Nature was actually about to fire all of their asses for sucking at their jobs.
I told you she'd take away Thunderella's powers. A lot of us.
Oh, don't think I haven't noticed all your squabbling. That's not what I gave you your powers for.
But then Lord Malice shows up to get everyone back on the same page, like literally, hey, there's like a movie plot here. Can we all get into it?
If everyone would just give Thunderella a chance, I'm sure she could do her job. My decision is final. The Dwarfelles shall be stripped of their powers. Don't worry, he can't harm us here.
Don't you want to know what happened to your precious prince?
Oh, please, yes.
I thought so. The answer lies in my castle in the realm of doom. Oh dear, the uncivilized brute.
I must go to the realm of doom. Well, it won't be easy. Could the 7 Dwarfelles come with me? Yeah! You want them?
What?
Anyway, yeah, that's what we're doing. One does not simply walk into Mordor, but with Snow White and the Dwarfelles, who are largely going along on the basis of their powers will be useful, probably, and, spoiler, their powers are not useful at all.
I think you have to give this place a facelift. Oh my goodness. I don't think your powers are going to be much help here.
My ability to talk with fish is of no help, Wonder Woman.
Oh, also there's this creepy hooded guy called the Shadow Man who's stalking the good guys on their quest, and he looks like a villain, and maybe he's helping, but also he doesn't want Snow White to look at him, and this gets a bunch of focus, but also no real build-up, so try and look surprised at where that goes.
You were trying to warn us about something. It's almost as though you've been watching over me, caring for me like a friend.
Eventually, it's time to storm the castle, fight the bad guy, or rather, walk up to the bad guy and try not to get killed, since, despite the whole Snow White gets to have her own agency in this one, she doesn't actually do anything or show any real initiative or even make a plan at all.
My prince? Is it really you?
Who else would it be? See your prince again!
It really seems like her strategy is to just be the main character and assume things are going to work out because she's there, which, I mean, that's true, but it's weird that she proceeds like she knows that. You have expect her to go up to Malice like, go ahead, Uncle, I didn't die once this whole time. Hell, last time I did die and I came back, so clearly I'm the Goku in this scenario. Let's go. But this is end-of-life Filmation, so formula's gonna win out, and our very tenuous plot threads are gonna get tied up tight. Shadow Man gets knocked around, Snow White gets knocked around, Dwarfelles are out of commission.
The all is lost moment!
But then...
Now, you, Snow White, a moment I shall long cherish. Finally,
Oh my god! That's Chekhov's entrance music! And he's got a gun!
Snow White, they're okay now.
Oh, and Shadow Man was the prince? I guess he'd been transformed or something. That was the big twist.
It's you. It was you all along.
Malice cast a spell on me.
Oh, I see. Then everything is wrapped up in a neat little package. Really, I mean that. Sorry if it sounded sarcastic.
Yeah. Happy ending, like it said in the title.
If it weren't for your help, I never would have seen my prince again.
Some of us were a little more helpful than others.
Honestly, Sunbird, must you take all the credit?
Not me. Thunderella! You really came through.
I feel like I'm shitting on this, and no, Happily Ever After is not a good movie, and it oozes both the cynicism and weariness of the conditions it was made under. But also, watching it for the first time in forever, I can't really say there isn't some actual charm to the effort of it. Like most Filmation productions, you can see the places where they were on keep the lights on, profit-driven mode, and where the genuine creative spirit is like clawing its way through regardless. The background work is very lovely. That's generally always the case with Filmation projects. The character designs for everyone but Snow White and Prince Public Domain are honestly very charming. They can't think of anything for the Dwarfelles to actually do other than exist on screen and hopefully inspire toy sales. They did not, but it's fun that there's variety in their designs where a couple of them get to be very fairy-like. Critterina almost looks like a squirrel. Thunderella is really the only cute kid one, and Muddy and Sunburn get these legit frumpy battle axe designs that you don't see good guy female characters ever have anymore, even in cartoons. And it is kind of funny that they made a huge deal out of getting Irene Cara to voice Snow White and then gave the only really memorable song to Thunderella. The vocals are a mixed bag and overly familiar, but there is a reason why you heard these actors so often in these movies. Like, the dialogue is very rote, but handed off to pros like these, and they almost make this stuff work.
Oh, you better believe it.
What on earth is that? I know. She was trying to make a catfish.
Wonderful. A looking glass that talks.
As with anything, this has developed sort of a fan base over the years, especially among people who saw it as kids and either genuinely enjoyed it or remember it as kind of a fever dream, and with the reappraisal that Filmation has gotten among the animation community, which I'm glad to see. If you didn't grow up with it, I can't speak to what coming to it cold feels like now, but as odd artifacts in a year that's sure to be rife with Snow White-related annoyances, you can check it out and see for yourself that no, you didn't imagine this. This movie exists. So hey guys, I hope you all enjoyed this presentation of This Movie Exists. Since it's pilot day, we're launching 3 back-to-back-to-back debuts all at once, so please check out the other 2 showing right now and remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.